For the tea sector to survive the COVID-19 pandemic and revert to profitability, there must be an overhaul of the traditional system and adopt to modern and changing global tea market trends. This is according to Apollo Carrier, Managing Director, Kenya Tea Growers Association. Carrier's sentiments come on the back of reports by the Kenya Tea Development Agency stating that at the close of the financial year, June 2020, 14 billion worth of tea was stuck in its warehouse due to low demand. Against this and in light of profitability challenges, tea farmers will be receiving lower pay, with 620,000 farmers unsure of their financial fate as 54 tea factories are yet to close their financial books for the year. Carrier now maintains that tea will continue being a loss-making venture if tea producers do not diversify their product offering and the government does not intervene to cover the cost of value addition.
Apollo, thank you for making time.
Thank you so much.
So according to numbers released by KTDA at the close of the financial year June 2020, KTDA reports that it had 14 billion worth of tea stuck in its warehouses. Please help us contextualize very briefly. What are some of the factors that are contributing to a sluggish offsetting of Kenyan tea in international markets?
Yeah, thank you so much. What is happening is that at the onset of COVID-19, production was still ongoing. I want to report that we were not really affected. We didn't shut down our estates, our factories, so production continued. But with the lockdown of the countries where we sell our tea consuming countries, where there were lockdowns and shipments of tea was not able to happen. And then as a result of that, then the uptake became a bit sluggish while production continued. And at the same time, the weather was very nice. Between March, April, May, thereabout, we had good rains. So we had the tea was being produced in large quantities as opposed to the uptake of the same commodity.
There were concerns that now that there's a lockdown and international markets are slow, equally, auction prices haven't been very competitive. Revenue to tea producers and tea farmers was going to drop. From where you sit, how far or how deep does the revenue dent go as far as you're concerned?
That's a fact. That's an economic fact, because when there's high production and there's high supply, which leads to high supply, and there's less demand, obviously, what happens is the price plummet. So what is happening is that across the divide, we are experiencing low prices, which are not even able to break even. The average price is not adequate for businesses to break even in their cost of production. So that is a simple economic factor that is happening, and we are arrived to that fact. And if things don't improve very soon, then it will be a very dire situation. But that's the reality of the ground. While we actually continue incurring costs to run the operations, the prices we are getting at the auctions are not able to meet those costs. So that's the situation that we are in.
You could quantify maybe how much losses have you incurred so far?
Going by the numbers, when you talk about $1.97 to a kilo of made tea, as opposed to our cost of production $21, and obviously that's a loss. So if you work out the numbers, what we are doing right now, we are moving money from one pocket to the other, and there's no profitability coming through. So that's the situation that we are in.
And that's the international station. Locally, we also know that the tea sector is not doing well. We've seen reports that balance sheet from tea factories are a little bit weak and they are in debt. How does this in turn affect the whole tea industry and tea production?
The tea industry still embraces a simplistic commodity economics of short supply, you plant more tea. And then when the prices are high, you plant more tea. So what happens is that continuously we get more tea coming out of the gardens, and the world market is not uptaking as much as we are producing. So on the opposite side of it, which has a similar effect, is that when the prices are low, we increase production to sell more tea at lower margins. by piling, more fertilizing so that you get more productivity. But the net effect is that the profitability of the industry becomes very, very slim, very shaky, and it's not business as usual. We may have to look at how we do business to be able to sustain the industry globally, because tea production outstrips the consumption of tea in the global market. And that's a phenomenon that we need to work on. We cannot continue telling our farmers to plant more tea, more tea, more tea, whereas the prices in the world market are plummeting. It's going to change, and it's high time we looked at inwardly, and we said we need to produce high quality tea and less production so that we can get high prices. That's the kind of economics we need to look at.
And I like the last part that you've mentioned, because also President Uhuru Kenyatta said we have to invest in value addition for our tea if it has to garner top dollar. How far are we tracking in that end?
When you talk about value addition, what value are we adding? Because the minute the tea comes from our factories, it's ready for drinking. Okay, so the only value addition you can do is to do the branding and the branding. Okay, that is an activity that can be done not by the producers. The producers have no capacity because it's a very highly expensive and capital intensive activity to undertake. We will need government to create a very enabling platform to allow investors to come or businessmen to set up activities of value addition and branding so that we can get higher prices. But to tell the farmer to go into that activity requires heavy investments, which is not available at the moment.
Beyond COVID-19, how do we inject vibrancy and also profitability back into the tea sector?
What we need to look at is the new trends and the market demands. What does the market want? People now don't want to take the normal tea that we used to take. The age that we are in now is the new people the youngsters, they want ready to drink tea. They want the special teas, the green tea, the purple tea, the oolong tea. So I think that's an area that we need to focus on so that we can do diversification of the kind of products that we're making that will be able to fetch better prices from the consumers, and also look inwardly as to how we regulate our industry. Because right now what we are doing is that there's too much over regulation that is making it difficult for businesses to thrive. And we would like an environment whereby the tea industry does not go the coffee way, it doesn't go the sugar way, it doesn't go the Paredram way, but we need to nurture the industry so that it becomes vibrant and puts more money into the pockets of the farmers.
Apollo, thank you for making time. That is where we leave our conversation today. Thank you so much for making time.